Oh man. Alright. Sorry guys. Ooh. Okay. Alright. I don't think I got that shit sorted out. And ooh, hold on. The fuck? What is this Reddit bullshit? Alright. So saw some shit earlier. I want to check out about Cyprus. I have a friend who's from Cyprus. And some interesting stuff about that island. Kind of just baffled me, and now I'm going down a huge rabbit
The
hole.
result was as it has been
Oh,
throughout the advance,
but
with
here we
immensely
are.
superior weapons. Thursday morning, a week ago, tanks of the Turkish army on the outskirts of Famagusta are about to complete their victory in Cyprus. The Geneva peace talks have collapsed. The Turks have lost patience, have given up
The
words in
text.
favor of war. They will take what they want of Cyprus by force of arms. Royal
Alright, I'm
Fusiliers
gonna
at the
pack a
British
bomb
military
with
base of Takalia watched the Turks with anxiety. The British base borders Famagusta. The Turks are unsure of their position. The British are unsure of the Turks. If the tanks seek to pass through the British base on their way to Famagusta, there'll be a confrontation. There is no communication between the two sides. Suddenly, without warning, the Turkish army opens fire on the base.
I guess so. A quick synopsis, so you guys know why they're fighting. Uh, I guess in 1974, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so before all this, this region was it's basically been locked for conquerors, like people like the Ottoman Empire, and shit like that. Like this land has always been conquered because it's an island, and because of its location, it's perfect for military assets and shit like that. Blah blah blah. And basically, as soon as the last person who fucking tried to rule over them, which was Britain, um, they basically kicked Britain out, and then they ended up having the island to themselves for the first time in like centuries or whatever. And then they ended up ruining it because they all started fighting amongst themselves over, who would rule or who would have the power. And honestly, they proposed something that was pretty fair, considering that only 20% of the island is Turkish and 80% is fucking you know, Greece, and the original 80% wanted to merge with Greece, and they didn't because of us, a little 20%, which doesn't even make sense. Like, why are you gonna, you know, care about 20%? Well, it's not that, you're not caring about it, but when you're comparing 20, like, how do I put this? If you were gonna save 20% of people versus another 80% of people, I'm pretty sure you're gonna want to save more of the people. So you would choose the 80%, is what I'm trying to say. And they still give them a fair deal. They were like, here, you get to control basically like 30%, and we get to control 80%, and blah blah blah. And that wasn't enough for them. So then both sides started fighting, and then yeah, here we are now. That was just like a rundown, quick rundown.
No British soldier is wounded, and so diplomacy intervenes. It's mutually agreed that the shelling of the base by the Turks is an accident of war. The Turkish army, carefully skirting British territory, is allowed to move unmolested on Famagusta, the last
Unmolested.
stronghold of the Greeks. The Turks face only token resistance from the local headquarters of the Greek Cypriot National Guard. The tanks shell the barracks. The result was as it has been throughout the advance. With immensely superior weapons, they overwhelm the Greek opposition, while the British look on. The Turks complete their conquest in Cyprus with an avalanche of shells which destroy deserted buildings. The port of Famagusta is in Turkish hands. Its buildings smoke from the bombs of the Turkish Air Force, which has obliterated what remained of the Greek resistance. For the Turks, it's been an easy war to win. Abandoning its strongholds, the last ragged battalion of the Greek Cypriot army flees from the Turks. The Greeks seek to escape through the British Deucalion base, but the British, mindful of trigger-happy tanks, refuse to let them pass.
If you come through, they might start shooting.
I know
I'm sorry, but
yes. I know that. Maybe.
If you come through, I'll start shooting.
Tell Zero that this battalion is moving round.
The defeat for these Greek Cypriots is a humiliation brought on them by their own commanders, the Greek officers from the mainland who led the island's army, who had tried to murder Makarios and replace him with a thug called Samson. Their wild dream of a Cyprus ruled from Greece provoked the Turkish invasion, led to this catastrophe. The Greeks had no hope of victory. They fought from pride, knowing they would lose. As the Greeks fled, the Turkish rode rejoicing into the old city of Famagusta. This had been a Turkish enclave surrounded by Greeks who outnumbered the Turks by 3-1. Now, not only the old city, but the entire port of Famagusta is in Turkish hands. When the Turkish army first invaded the island, the Turkish Cypriots of Famagusta came under siege from the Greeks. They were bombarded by artillery, cut off from the outside world, short of food and water. Now they were free, freed by the Turkish army.
This is just interesting, like it's just baffling. Like it's just like, you know, like greed.
Generals of the Turkish High Command, their victory complete, arrived in triumph to acknowledge the greetings of those they had saved. For the Turks of Cyprus, these were the heroes from the motherland who had come to their rescue. The army's arrival in Famagusta was the climax of their advance, an advance they justified because of the suffering of their besieged people at the hands of the Greeks. The victory secured for the Turks a slice of Cyprus, which they now regard as their own.
Damn. These people are clapping for their downfall.
It's no wonder that the Turks rejoice. No wonder that the siege is but a bad memory from a past which will never return.
In the last half an hour, just before the Turkish tanks arrived, I counted 68 mortars at the Famagusta gate, by the hospital,
I looked to my watch, it was exactly 5 o'clock. And for the 50 minutes, I counted 125 Mortons had been shelled to Old City. Do you imagine? 125 Mortons to be shelled from a 50.
Damn, 125 mortars is crazy.
Well, just before the tanks arrived, we had a very heavy shelling by mortars and long-range guns, and everybody was very upset. But when suddenly we heard the word, the tanks are here, and everybody started rushing out, the first thing we could think of was the safety of the women and children in case any more shells fell. But I'm afraid there was no stopping anyone. They just poured out of the shelters. They were all in the streets. In fact, everyone was crying. You know, they had tears in their eyes, and they just started climbing over the tanks and the armored cars. It was one big mass of happiness, ecstasy, and relief, really.
And what was your feeling when you heard the tanks?
I say you, I lost everything in my house. I was very unhappy, you know. I was unhappy. But when I saw the tanks, I forget my unhappiness. I was very happy because my life was saved, my children's life was saved, and my people, I mean the Turks, was all safe. I'm very happy, of course, because they saved ourselves.
I know war is a very bad thing for everybody. You know, I don't envy being anyone on the receiving end of a war. It is terrible for everyone. Everybody loses something, somebody. But then freedoms are never given. You have to take them. I'm afraid we had to do that. Only Turkey could have helped us.
Beyond the walls of the old Turkish city, Famagusta is silent. All this belonged to the Greeks. Famagusta was the tourist resort of the island, the major port. Much of the wealth of Greek Cyprus was based here. Last weekend, the Greeks fled in panic before the Turkish tanks. Now, the town is deserted.
Honestly, seeing shit like this kind of just angers me. Because then you realize that everybody fucking lost because everybody was being, greedy and hubris. You think that these people who have basically been like not enslaved but essentially captured and ruled over by other people for like centuries, dude. We're talking like hundreds of years, if not thousands. And for the first time in those thousands of years, when you finally get your own freedom, you guys ruin it, you know, by fighting amongst yourselves. You guys finally rose up together, and you saw how powerful you guys were together, that you guys were able to overthrow Britain. Like of all of them, Britain. Like, come on, Britain was pretty strong. And they kicked them out, and Britain literally kind of fucked off. And like the minute you guys tasted some type of liberty and power, it's like you guys just forgot how to act. You guys were just like, oh fuck, fuck you. If I could do this shit, then I don't need you guys. Not realizing that you did need those guys to get where you were.
No voice is heard. No child plays. No door slams. It is as if the Greek Cypriot world has come to an end. The last to escape the Turkish advance were the old, the weak, and the sick. In terrified ones and twos, the Greeks scurried for safety, taking with them nothing but their fear of the Turk. The Greeks have been reared on myths born out of centuries of enmity between the two races. For these people, the Turkish soldier is a barbarian. They have abandoned all that they have, and they won't return while the Turks are there. Do you come from a village now under control
Yes.
by the Turkish? Would you go back there or
I
not?
don't want to go back. Nobody wants to go back.
And we want to
With
go
this
back
gathering.
to our village, but not under the Turkish control. We want to live free as we left before.
We hate these fucking people anyway. Hate them. Since we are so small boys, because our grandfathers from our grandfathers, I mean, years ago, they do that to this island and to Greece too.
You mean you've hated them for forever, for a long, long time?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
The struggle between the two people
yes,
has always been
yes,
there.
because they are hard people. They are not same the Greek Cypriots,
If
which
you
they like
live-
everybody.
If the Turkish authorities said that it would be perfectly all right for you to live there under their jurisdiction, their control, would you be happy about that?
No, because the Turkish are the more barbar people that there is in the world. So nobody.
Barbarous, you mean?
Yes, barbarous people who is in this.
Hey, dude, like, I don't wanna, like, be pointing any fingers, but from an outsider that doesn't really know anything looking in, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning more towards the Greeks here, cause somebody who does love who does love everybody more, would want to join like they wanted to join Greece. It's not like they just wanted the power to themselves and they wanted to just join somebody else immediately. But then again, I'm not taking sides to be exact. I'm just stating that, Greece was more, and then at the same time, but then to also play devil's advocate, we don't really know how they were treating the Turks back then, you know. So, there must be a reason why the Turks didn't want to just, jump over to Greece, because if they did, because if there wasn't anything going on, they would have gladly done so, I would imagine.
Word, so it is somewhat difficult.
Like, I would imagine that the reason that they didn't want to is because, they were probably being treated poorly, so they felt like if they did join them, then they would get treated even more
To
harshly.
live under the Turkish authority.
You wouldn't do that?
No.
You would prefer, even if you had to lose your house, to live in the Greek
Wait, let's
side?
look this up, actually. I don't want to just... Alright, so if I get this correctly, the reason that they essentially kind of like broke off, like the reason that they started fighting is because they already had a beef. Like they already had like centuries beef with these people. That they just somehow managed to, live in peace in that island, which I don't know. Oh man, dude. And they somehow managed to fuck that up by fighting over who should rule it instead of just, you know. Yeah. Mm. I see where the so basically the Turks are the enslavers and all this. They were the ones and the Greeks were the ones who broke free, and then I see now why this guy is saying that they're more lovey-dovey or whatever.
Than to live under the Turkish authority.
You know how many thousand pounds I left in my house? I left my tractor. I left my combine. I left my wheat and barley, which is all my things, and I left them.
You have nothing to go back to now.
No, I don't think I could find back. Could find anything.
What do you think you will do now?
Kill myself. Kill myself. Yes, better to kill myself. If I go back to find
That's hardcore, dude.
my house.
But why do you think that they will have destroyed things? There's no evidence that they have looted on a wide scale.
Look that! What's that? Who's done that?
In Famagusta, the bombing.
He was actually wrong about that, though. They didn't take anything or do
Every
anything.
Cypriot is on the move. Refugees, confused and numbed, in constant flight, heading nowhere but away from the Turks.
Look, dude, all I'm saying is if you do the math, man, and you realize that it's 2080 and you guys have been living in peace, you know, and you know, originally you guys were the people who enslaved these people, and you know, you guys were still able to live on this peaceful island, you know, with each other, even though you enslaved them at first. Well, not enslaved, basically, yeah. You guys basically ruled over them, and then they broke free. And then now you guys were able to live on this island peacefully together, you know, and they outnumber you too. Like, I mean, you outnumber your captors, so to speak, but you guys are still able to live in peace and coexist. So I don't understand what the Turkish were so scared of, dude. Like, they already had reason to, you know, I guess fuck you up, but they didn't, and they outnumbered you. So I don't know, like this fear or whatever is what led to the downfall. Like, they could have honestly just went to Greece and been done with it. It's not like they would have fucking, you know, not they would have fucking ended them or anything, or kicked them out of their homes.
It is thought that
Things would have just gone as
200,000
normal, I'm pretty
people
sure.
are now refugees. 200,000. One person in every 3 on the island. The Greeks have fled from dozens of small towns and villages in the way of the Turkish tanks. Families sit waiting for they know not what. They've lost the Cyprus they thought was theirs. They all have fathers or sons or brothers who fought against the Turks. It's feared that nearly 5,000 people have died in the fighting. Some bear it in silence, others cannot.
Damn, I wish I knew what they were saying. This is sad, man. This is sad. Oh, man.
It is inconceivable that they can live like this for long, yet no alternative is in sight. There is no hope, only the knowledge of loss.
The tanks came into our village at about 2 o'clock, and when we heard the noise, all the people tried to leave the village. We were so scared of those tanks, and we didn't take anything with us, but we tried to leave the village as soon as possible.
Have you got nothing with you?
No, we didn't take anything with us.
And
When we heard the tanks, we left immediately.
and came here.
Yeah,
What did you leave behind in the village?
we left everything.
Yo, that
Our
girl to
house,
the right,
everything.
her face is so skinny.
We didn't take anything with us.
The scale of the Greek disaster is now sinking in. There are sudden, irrational outbursts of despair. This woman fears that her son is dead.
Comments are
thinks
turned
that
off.
we're Americans, blames us for letting the Turks invade, and wants the crowd to drive us away.
With Americans, and she thinks that you are from America, and she
What has happened? Is she has she lost part of her family?
Yes.
Okay, wait, that's a reach.
He's my brother.
She's your mother.
Yeah, he's my.
What has happened?
My other brother is lost. He's not found it yet. He's not. We don't found yet.
He has been in the National Guard.
Yes.
And he has disappeared.
Yeah. And we don't know exactly where he's now.
And she thinks.
Yeah, he's killed. We don't.
Okay. She thinks that we are Americans, and
Yeah. Yes.
and she blames. Does everyone blame the Americans
Yeah.
at the moment?
Everyone he doesn't like Americans. Nobody. Nobody likes Americans. No.
Will you go back? Do you think?
We don't know exactly.
Would you go back while the Turkish people control that area?
No. No one wants to go there.
At all.
Dude, this is what I mean, dude. I think this shit is hilarious when people say that they don't love Americans. Because guess what, dude? You guys are the ones that are coming over here. It's not the other way fucking around, bro. Everybody always be saying, oh, fuck Americans. We hate Americans. This and that about America. Well, guess what, dude? You don't see Americans hopping the border to come to you. It's the other way around. You guys are coming over here. Like, as American or whatever as that sounds, it's fucking true, dude. And it's honestly so annoying, dude. Like, hearing the rest of the world fucking say that they hate fucking Americans because it's, you know, just because there's some bad actors and some fucking idiots that go across. That doesn't represent the rest of us, dude. What the fuck did I do? What the hell did I do for you to hate me? Like, what? Like, two completely different countries are fighting, right? And you get invaded by literally somebody who you've had a beef with your entire life or your entire like existence. And you know, we're just trying to know what happened, and all of a sudden it's hey, fuck you. We don't like you. We fucking hate Americans. Fuck you. Like what the fuck did we do? What? So you like okay, so let me get this straight. Like Fumagusta is a massive tourist area, right? Where the hell do you think these tourists are coming from? Like yeah, I'm definitely for a fact sure that there was like, you know, definitely like French tourists and tourists from all around the world, but if you expect me to believe that there wasn't any American tourists and, you know, that we didn't contribute to Fumagusta being a well prosperous fucking place, that's a little ignorant, man. You're biting the hand that feeds you right now, dude. Come on, dude. Let's get past this, dude.
No, because maybe killed. They killed a very old man. They killed about 200.
Bro, you don't see anybody saying, "Oh yeah, fuck Dubai." Or like, "Fuck Britain." I mean, they used to say "fuck Britain," to be fair. Or you didn't see anybody saying "fuck India" or some shit. Like, come on, dude.
And they come and take all
Like, dude, China be doing just as much fucking shady, fucked up shit as America does, and you don't see nobody saying, "Oh yeah, dude, fuck China. We hate Chinese." Like, what? What is this? What is this only hate America shit? Like, let's not pretend that other governments aren't doing the same exact shit that Americans do. We like what? Everybody just looks at us because we have the most power or the most. Well, I don't know what the fuck.
the Turkish from villages around my village go to our village and take the cows, the pigs, and everything they want. Everything they find.
Do you think that the Greek people will try?
Okay, hold on. I need to know. Really, bro? This is what I. Ooh, ooh, ooh! You seeing this? Are you fucking seeing this? So what? It's just fuck Americans. We hate Americans just because we didn't come and save you every time, dude. Like I don't. This is what I mean, dude. I don't get this. It's either fuck you because you didn't come and save us, and you didn't come and play hero, or it's hey fuck you. You're playing hero. You think you're the you world police. You think you're better than everybody. Stop butting your noses at everybody. Which one is it, dude? Which one fucking is it? We're either getting shit on for helping or we're getting shit on for not helping. What the fuck is going on here, dude? It's just fuck America, huh?
And get that land back, or will you insist
Golly.
that the Turkish people are in control there?
No.
What will you do?
Young people, they want to take the land back.
You will fight?
Yeah.
The Turkish army were expected to annex 1/3 of the island, but it has even more, for it's advanced so far south that it now holds nearly 40% of Cyprus. As a result, the Turks hold more than 2/3 of the island's wealth.
They moved from Piroi to Athens yesterday. Now, from their forces in Piroi, they branched off this way.
Glafkos Clerides, leader of the Greek Cypriots, knows that his people face catastrophe. Now urging the world to act, he claims that the Turkish have not yet finished their work.
Yes.
And what is the situation then, so far as you're concerned?
We'll have to fight in the hills.
He won't negotiate till the Turks retreat. He's in a desperate position, but he remains defiant.
I think it is going to get...
Have to bear that you will fight them in the hills rather than that.
Whatever the physical suffering, we have no alternative but to fight. There are certain commodities in life which, even to secure physical comfort, do not constitute negotiable commodities. And the freedom of one's people and the freedom of one's land is not a negotiable commodity.
60 miles west along the coast, from the battlefield of Famagusta, at the opposite end of the island, are other refugees. Here are the Turks, 7,000 men, women and children who fled from their enemy, the Greeks. A month ago, the Greeks surrounded the small isolated villages of the Turkish community. On the arrival of the Turkish army in Cyprus, there was fighting. Those Turks who lived far from the invasion front had no army to defend them. They were outnumbered. Many were captured. The rest fled to safety in a British base. Like the Greek refugees, they have nothing. Their homes have been looted, their people killed. Yet now they're free from the fear that has always been with them. For the first time in their lives, they have hope. A Turkish victory offers them security. They hope that the Greek Cypriots will accept the new order. Each of them is waiting for the peace which would allow them to trek north into a Turkish Cyprus.
I don't care. I got about 2 houses and quite a few acres of land, but I don't give a damn to it. Sorry about that. I would prefer to live as long as I'll be secured by the Turks.
Would you again now live under Greek administration?
Not at all. Definitely not.
I mean, it's no good to live with these Greek people. We can't live with them because we know at the end, still they will find some way to kill even our brothers or our sisters. Once we save our soil.
But this is just not true. This is just not true, dude. Because you guys lived in peace. When you guys were ruled by somebody else, the British, you guys teamed up together. You guys not only lived in harmony, but you guys teamed up and worked together to defeat your enemy. What do you mean, dude? Oh man, this is
My suggestion.
Oh man, I wish I was a reporter in like situations like this, just so I could ask these questions. You know, like, bro, what do you like? Oh man, I would have looked at him just like in that meme, and I would have just been like, "What are you talking about, bro? You guys like were just living together peacefully, and then you guys won your little skirmish against the British, and then now it's like, hey, fuck you, I want to take over the land. No, hey, fuck you, I want to take over the land. Like, how about none of you guys take over the land and just live peacefully like how you have been?"
Administration is under the protection of Turkish army.
Even if that means mass migration backwards and forwards across the land of Greek and Turks.
Well, still, my opinion doesn't change.
I think everybody here, if you ask them one by one, and you will find many people here who are well off, that they will not care about their land, and they will run to the place to the north where the Turkish administration is.
What happens if the Greeks do not accept the existence of that border and decide to fight for a long time, guerrilla warfare or whatever that may be, in order to gain back that land?
Well, I think what Clearidis, the acting president, said, that if Turkey decides to move a third time, that they will go to the mountains and fight again, just what they have done in '55 to English people. But I think Turkey will not give them the chance.
How so? How do you mean?
Well, you don't expect Turkey to give them the chance to kill innocent people, just going like guerrillas, putting bombs in the cars or into the houses, or just killing innocent people. I don't think she will give them the chance.
But you can't stop guerrilla war. No Greek will accept the humiliation of August 1974. Hate and fear now rule Cyprus.
Damn.
The island faces indefinite war across a perpetual divide. In one way only are Greek and Turk alike. They both now belong to a nation of refugees.
Damn. Yeah, it's pretty fucked, man. And then, hold on. Still got a little bit more. Little bit more. He's got more. More. Hold on. Here we go.
The Turkish army opened up with tank and artillery fire on Greek Cypriot positions near the Nicosia airport.
I'm on an island in the Mediterranean, and I'm at an airport on the runway right now, actually. But this airport is completely empty. It's totally still. There's no one here. It's eerie, it's empty, it's falling apart. The reason this airport is a ghost town is because we are literally inside of a border. This is Cyprus. It is an island that's just under Turkey, just to the left of Lebanon and Israel. So yeah, I'm locked inside of a border right now, which I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit. But the short answer is that this is a gray zone. It is a no man's land, and in fact, challenges what we even mean by the word country. This airport used to be a thriving hub of international travel, people everywhere. And then that changed. It changed because of an invasion.
The Turkish air attacks came sporadically but swiftly. The main targets were Greek Cypriot police and National Guard buildings, and above all, the airport, where there was some heavy fighting today.
The Greek Cypriots, sizably outnumbered by the Turks, were able to put up little resistance.
And not that long ago, we're talking like the 1970s, it was that conflict that locked this place into a no man's land, into a conflict that still continues to this day. This airport is not the story here. This is just one piece of a huge puzzle. It's a puzzle and a situation that I have been thinking about for years, the better part of a decade. I've been staring at this place, thinking about it, looking at it, and I'm finally here. I'm finally here to look at it in the face, to understand it, to talk to the people, to look at its story, and to try to piece together an explanation of how this island was divided, not between two countries, but divided into four.
The island where Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, was born out of sea spray.
Cyprus is Britain's base in the Middle East, and the Middle East is under constant pressure.
In addition to clashes with rebelling Greek Cypriots, the British are faced with keeping the peace between the Turkish and Greek factions.
Sizably outnumbered by the Turks, were able to put up little resistance.
The Greeks had no hope of victory. Hate and fear now rule Cyprus.
I came to this island because I wanted to understand something I've been thinking about for years. I studied it back in grad school, but never really understood it. So after years of reading about this conflict and looking at it on a map, I came. I met up with some friends who were also traveling in this region and who also wanted to learn, to expand their perspectives on this poorly understood conflict.
The birthplace of Aphrodite.
So you say the island is divided into four, but what are the four parts?
To understand that, you have to look at the map. Even though the country of Cyprus is a member of the EU and their flag literally has an island on it, it has the entire island on it. The Republic of Cyprus actually looks like this. It only takes up 60% of the actual island. It's made up of mostly people who identify as Greek. So this is it. This is the country of Cyprus. Only controls this portion of the island. It's just 60% of the island.
Wait, okay, so that's not the whole island. What is the remaining portion?
The remaining 40% is complicated. First off, you have a small fraction of this island that is controlled by, wait for it, the British. The British. Yes, you guessed it.
I saw that coming.
Yes, didn't we all? The British. They mainly use it for military purposes. And then you have this strip right here that is owned by no country. This is controlled by the United Nations. It's a buffer zone, a ceasefire line set up in the 60s and 70s to stop the fighting. Now the elephant in the room here, which is the rest of this map. All of this up here is controlled by the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. According to the UN and to almost every other country, this space is not a country. It's a self-declared country that is occupying half of this island almost. But if you go to this place, it feels like a country. It has like a government that builds roads and infrastructure and has political parties and elections. So so
it is a country.
It's
kind of a country.
It's a facade. It's a sham.
This land up here is occupied because there was an invasion in the
It's not real, it's an optical illusion. It's literally just a Genji.
They left their homes completely empty, thinking maybe they would come back, but they never did.
As the Turks advance,
Yeah, that shit is so eerie. That's honestly what caught me.
into the Decalia base is growing rapidly.
There's this city in what is now the occupied north
Famagusta.
that used to be this like beautiful resort town. When the invasion happened, the people fled. There was a bombing on this town, and they all fled. And they thought, okay, once the bombing's over, we'll come back. And they never did. It's been 47 years, and they have not gone back. They left there homes, they left food in their refrigerators, they left their pictures, their jewelry just in their homes. I met a guy who left that day. He was 33. He took his 2 children and they drove. And after months of talking to the Turkish military, we got permission to go back with him to visit his old home and to talk about that experience.
Wait, how could this city possibly go from idyllic resort to a ghost town, basically?
That is the question I've been thinking about for a lot of years now. And to understand it, it really helps to know. And this is located so perfectly.
Here we go.
Everyone, the first thing to know, and the context of this island, is that everyone wanted it, always.
They wanted a piece of the pie, George.
In the Mediterranean, at the crossroads of Europe and the Middle East and Northern Africa, that it is so perfectly strategically located, everyone wanted it. It was the Persians and Alexander the Great, and then of course the Romans show up with their
Oh yes, I forgot about them too.
do that thing. You get the point. Like, Cyprus was just a strategic pawn being conquered and ruled by one empire after another for literally thousands of years.
How was
and
there
that gets
too?
us up
1,000
to
years.
500 years ago, which is closer to the root
Nice.
of this conflict, when the empire from Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, came over. They threw out the current empire, which is the Venetians, and they came in. And they're like, the Ottoman Empire now rules Cyprus.
So I don't mean to interrupt because like, this is all fascinating, but I have always had the question of whether Turkey is named after the bird or if it's the other way around. And this is just something that's bugged me forever, and I figured I'd ask you.
I mean, we were talking about like the conquering of this land, but we can talk about turkeys for a little bit. So
You guys could go look
America,
this shit
Europe,
up
the-
yourselves.
How the island was divided into 4, or do you want to keep talking? Okay, so we're at the point where the Ottoman Empire, the Turkey Empire, owns Cyprus, okay? And this is where Turkic people arrive to this island, and they find mostly Greek people. Greek Christians, Turkic Muslims, different cultures. And yet, over the years, they made a harmonious society together where they lived next to each other in the same villages and towns in peace. Let's get to modern day, because it's like the late 1800s, Ottoman Empire's crumbling, like super crumbling. And who is the new kid on the block that is
Mr.
not
B.
crumbling but is rising? The British.
Mr. B. The
So
Brit.
it's not that surprising to me that the next part of the story is the British coming into a part of this, but why would they want this specific island?
There was particularly this one little strip of water that made all the difference. The Suez Canal was this new man-made canal that cut the time from Britain to India like in half. Like, it was so much easier to get to India, one of their major colonies. And Britain was like, we need to control that. And
They were like, we
boom,
want
Cyprus
that
is
shit,
there.
bro.
It's the Suez Canal. Like, it's a perfect move.
My boy, fucking Britain looked at that shit and was like, mine, 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 mine.
Important little island in the Mediterranean. It has become a strategic center in the Middle East zone of this world war.
So this is the big turning point in the story. The British own Cyprus. It is one of their colonies, and they're doing what the British do well, which is like they're making maps, they're doing demographics, and they're like, oh, you are Turkish Muslims, and you are Greek Christians, and they're like separating people by like identity just sort of on paper. The people who've been living here for thousands of years and being conquered by every empire you can imagine finally start to get fed up with all of this.
One British army truck is bombed.
Oh yeah.
Soldiers and wounding 12.
By the 1950s, Cypriots were done with British rule, and they had risen up in violent attacks against the British. The British realized it was time to go home. And it looked like Cypriots, for the first time, would actually be able to govern themselves instead of being tossed around by outside powers. But the Greek Cypriots didn't want independence. They actually wanted to join Greece. This was a political movement called Enosis. Meanwhile, the Turkish Cypriots didn't want to be a part of Greece. They didn't want to become even more of a minority. They instead wanted to divide the island into two new independent countries, one for Greek Cypriots and one for Turkish Cypriots. This is what a power vacuum will do to people. When the fate of who's going to be in control is up for grab, people latch onto
want
their
Cocoa
roots
for Cocoa
and
Puffs.
inflate their identities to divide themselves from the other side. These were no longer just Cypriots like they had been for centuries. Now they had to choose a team. Team Turkey or Team Greece. Right, so this is the climax. This is actually where the conflict becomes.
Attempting to reconcile Greek and Turkish viewpoints. All British proposals, however, were rejected, and a long period of riots and outrages followed.
The British realized that these divisions between Turks and Greeks on the island that they had helped create were now getting out of control. So they pulled a page out of their old playbook.
Really?
And a new British plan,
You don't
described
say.
as an adventure in partnership.
The plan was a classic one, to gather in London for a few days with a few leaders and outside powers and decide for the Cypriots how their country was going to be run. And that's what they did. They all sat in a room and they wrote a constitution for Cyprus. And Greece and Turkey were like both in the room, and they were like, we know that you sort of want to like join Greece maybe, or maybe you want to have your own country. You're going to get neither of those. You're going to be an independent country. And
So
we're
you're
going to
gonna
create
get
this really
neither of
clever
those.
constitution where the president has to be Greek, but the vice president has to be Turkish, and there has to be like a certain number of Greeks and Turks, and like they created this like really clever constitution that was gonna like make everyone happy in theory. And then they were like, you're gonna be independent, but we, the British, get to stay here with our bases, and Greece and Turkey get to kind of have power still. Like if something goes awry, like they can swoop in if they really need to. That was like a caveat to this agreement that they made in London. And in 1960, it happened.
Midnight in Nicosia, and Sir Hugh Foot entering Parliament is followed by Archbishop
Parliament,
Macarius,
that's a funny
who is
word.
to take over as first President of Cyprus. So representatives of the two Cypriot communities and of Greece, Turkey and Britain begin the signing ceremony. There are many documents to be signed.
Do any of us think that the British crafting a constitution that's like cleverly put together to make everyone get along is really gonna work? No. Right?
That sounds extremely flimsy.
It's very flimsy. It's
Telling
very,
other people how they should structure their country.
is never really works. And it's like, we've seen that like quite a few times. It's like, is anyone gonna learn that? Unsurprisingly, the whole we wrote you a constitution that says you should all get along thing didn't work out, and tensions between Greeks and Turks started to heat up.
For some time, hatred between the Greek and Turkish elements had been building up. Under such conditions, it takes more than a treaty to preserve the peace.
I have this amazing map. I mean, actually, you should see this. Remember that I mentioned that like Greeks and Turks sort of live together. As this constitution isn't working out, violence against Turks, who were always the minority, led them to leave their home, and they start to gather into these little enclaves around the country.
The Turkish Cypriots were declaring that it would be impossible ever again to live in harmony with their Greek compatriots.
And so the map went from looking like this to looking like this.
But the strategic island continues to be the scene of daily violence and bloodshed.
Over in Greece, the new military government saw this happening and thought that this would be a moment to swoop in and take over the government of Cyprus and try to realize this dream of Cyprus being united with Greece. And that's when Turkey's like, Greece, you violated the agreement. We weren't supposed to swoop in on the island unless there was something really wrong. And so we're gonna swoop in because we technically on paper say that we can come in and restore the peace. Well, they did a lot more than restore the peace. Turkey swoops in and starts taking over the north in a full-blown invasion with bombs and tanks and military like troops like hitting the like beaches with guns, like a full-blown invasion, and they start just taking over the north of the island. And the people start fleeing, the Greeks, who realize that Turkey's actually invading. And Turkey feels justified because they feel like Greece did it first. And so they just keep going.
Smoke from the battle rose high over the capital city.
Let's do it
The Greek
first.
Cypriots, sizably outnumbered by the Turks, were able to put up little resistance.
I've been glued to these early reports of the invasion of the island of Cyprus by Turkey. There's this one journalist from the UK named Jonathan Dimbleby who was like one of the first on the ground when all of this was happening. And he captures the feelings of the people who had to flee their homes to their side of the line.
We didn't take anything with us.
In these reports, you start to hear two totally different narratives, and these will go on to be the roots of the modern day conflict on the island of Cyprus. The first narrative is the Greek narrative. From their perspective, this is an invasion to their country, a theft of their property. Turkey was invading their sovereign territory and forcing them to leave land that was rightfully theirs.
It is unlikely that the Turks will allow them back. And there is no promise that they will be compensated for their confiscated homes and businesses.
It is as if the Greek Cypriot world has come to an end.
We prefer to be dead than to live under the Turkish authority.
But for Turkish Cypriots, this was not an invasion, this was salvation. Turkish Cypriots had suffered immense violence and brutality as minorities on the island at the hand of their Greek compatriots. And now Turkey was swooping in to save them, to protect them. That's why Turkish Cypriots call this the peace operation.
When I saw the tanks, I forget my unhappiness. I was very happy because my life was saved, my children's life was saved, and my people, I mean the Turks, was all safe. I'm very happy, of course.
People, the Turkish population feel more safe, secure, because the Turkish army is there to protect them.
After 3 days of an unstoppable offensive, the Turkish army seems to have grabbed just about all the land it wants on Cyprus, at least in the northern and northeastern parts of the island.
And then the Turks in the north declared a new country. They were like, we are now the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a new country. It's effectively just Turkey by another name.
I wonder, can you actually just declare yourself a country like that?
To stop the fighting, the UN carved out these twin lines that cut right through the capital of Nicosia. They stretch across the whole island, a buffer zone to stop the violence. And this establishes the lines we know today. With the Republic of Cyprus controlling all of this, the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus up here, then of course the British with the land that they held on to when Cyprus became independent, and then this UN buffer zone, which locks within its boundaries the airport, along with people's homes, businesses, and farms. This is an island divided into four.
In one way only are Greek and Turk alike. They both now belong to a nation of refugees.
You got that right.
One of the reasons I came here was because I wanted to see what this looks like after years of looking at it on a map. What does it feel like for the people to pick up and leave and flee to their side of this new boundary, abandoning their lives and communities? We're about to go into northern Cyprus for the first time. Here we go.
Damn.
As you drive through the occupied north, you see a lot of churches like this. I'm in a village where Greek Cypriots used to live. But in 1974, they fled south, leaving this village empty. The Turkish Cypriots who were in the south fled north and arrived to this village to find empty homes and this Christian church. And they converted it into a mosque so that they could continue their religious practices. But eventually, they built a new mosque right next door, and they left this church totally abandoned, where it lays today, falling apart. Both sides suffered immense losses, and now empty buildings are the most visceral, solid symbol of that loss.
Like, bro, this shit looks like Chernobyl, man. Like, it's just like nothing is destroyed, you know? Everything is perfectly intact. It literally looks like people just packed up all their shit and dipped.
These abandoned churches are peppered all throughout the occupied north. But perhaps the most haunting symbol of this switching of sides happened here, in that thriving Greek tourist town called Famagusta.
Famagusta was the tourist resort of the island, the major port. Much of the wealth of Greek Cyprus was based here. Last weekend, the Greeks fled in panic before the Turkish tanks. They have abandoned all that they have, and they won't return. Now, the town is deserted.
We're about to go in. I've been thinking about this place for the better part of a decade, and we're about to go in. The reason I spent months trying to get access to film in this ghost town wasn't just to capture it, but rather to understand the human tragedy that happened here. So I asked this man to come with me. His name is Mr. Takis. He's a Greek Cypriot who was my age back in 1974. He lived here in Famagusta. He owned hotels. He was in the tourism industry. But when Turkey invaded, he did what everyone else did in this town. He left with his family. And today, he's returning for the first time ever.
This is not...
oh, man. Yeah.
Easy to bear.
Yeah.
It brings out anger, it brings out confusion, it brings out disappointment.
Showing me his old home. So we started walking through what used to be his entire world. The cafe he used to come to often. His brother's old house, where he went to school.
I spent some of my best years here.
Wow.
Look at the background shot. It looks like a sea of skull map.
With Turkish and TRNC flags.
To see this in this situation makes me very, very sad. And,
as we walked through this ghost town, I kept trying to get Mr. Takis to go back to the Famagusta of before the invasion and to point out the places that he had good memories from. What do you remember about that time? But after a while, he finally just...
I came out. Yes, for sure. Everybody who left thought that they are...
Mr. Takis he hadn't seen since he fled all those years ago. Mr. Takis didn't pick up. And I began wounds. Also, I could make my video about the conflict. It started of his old wounds. Also, I could make my video and that he wanted to do. He didn't want to see it from the other side, from the beach. The part of this
from the other side. Now you will get an idea why it was so popular, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen the beach yet.
Damn, dude. Kind of gives me like a Bioshock feeling, like a Fallout feeling.
As we walked towards his house, now from the beach side, it was clear that Mr. Takis still felt deep pride for this place, this beach, this city.
In certain areas there is even turquoise water.
It's stunning, it's beautiful. And though his city and his property and his stories are now a ghost town,
that you appreciate is a torture.
He had brought of the Turkish military border that bars them from actually going inside. And in that moment, I felt a profound sadness for it all. This is like a human just community. Turkish Cypriots suffered immense violence and loss of their homes and communities in light vision. At the end of the day, this is a division that was strategic where it was located.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked. Oh, there's more? Yeah, that's fucked. I don't even know what to say, dude. That's fucking kind of... Still makes me irky how we still haven't done anything about that. Like, there's still... That shit is still fucking empty. No one's there. But yeah, it's getting pretty late. We're gonna chill out on stream. YouTube, I will catch you in the next one.